I'm Howard Hale. Thanks for joining me for today's edition of the Horseman's Corner. On the program today, a couple of really interesting folks. Nebraska horseman and clinician Ricky Quinn is with us on the program today. And Ricky, where are you working right now? Are you up at a clinic somewhere?
Actually, right now I'm just headed home from a run in Washington and Oregon, and I'm heading back to North Platte, back to my wife and I's place, and then I work and help a place called Lazy U Quarter Horses, and so Monday morning I'll be firing back up with them.
What about these clinics? You put them on all over the country, don't you?
Yeah, I used to. I used to do a lot more of them, and then since the last time I talked to you, Howard, quite a bit has changed in my life. Had a couple more kids, and there's a program in Hershey, Nebraska. It's a really big ranch, feed yard, and when I started with them, they had about 150 mares, and been able to work myself into a job there, and so I spend a lot of time there now, a lot less time on the road and a lot more time there helping them with their horse program.
Okay, talk about the horse program that they have. That's a lot of mares.
Yeah, it's a lot of mares, for sure, a lot of mares. Hard to keep up with it all. It's owned by the Olson family, Andy Olson, Kirk Olson. From what I understand, it's a third-generation farm and ranch. They raise a lot of corn, feed a lot of cattle. This time they have 2 different ranches of grass on it and a bunch of mares. And Andy, from what I understand, Andy just loves horses, and he does. I mean, I'm around him, but when he got started, just had a little love for horses and started with a handful of mares, and now you're sitting at 150 heads. So it kind of turned into a lot. Their feed yard, the people that hire on to ride in the feed yard, so we get these horses going, and then they go to that feed yard, and then they go with the people that go outside, doctoring cattle outside, moving cattle outside. And then we just do the best job we possibly can to get these horses gentle and understanding just kind of how to be quiet and accept the things in life. And we just take our time with the horses, and then we market these horses to anybody. We're just trying to make a horse that, somebody who doesn't do a whole lot, maybe they trail ride or something like that, and it's a lady who's retired and she just wants to love a horse, that we prepare our horses to the point that she can enjoy them. Or you get a higher-end team roper, that just wants a horse that's got some experience, maybe a 5-year-old that is strong and ready to go with life, and they can take that horse and they can go into the team roping world. So they're really well-bred horses, mostly cow horse breeding. We're just trying to get the best start we possibly can on these horses in a using way, in a ranching way, and then we're marketing them all word of mouth, mostly word of mouth and private treaty, and we're doing very well.
Is your job then to actually work with the horses, or do you work with the cowboys that work with the horses?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I do, Howard. Yeah, I help Kirk with a lot of the employees on the place, stockmanship, horsemanship, communication. A lot of that. A lot of people who have known, they kind of call me HR a little bit, and a lot of people that know me 10 years ago laugh at me, and they're like, we'd have never guessed you being in the HR department, Ricky. But a lot has changed in my life. A lot has changed for me, and so I do some of the hiring, trying to get people in the right spots in the operation to where they'll flourish, especially adding value to the livestock in general, to the cattle, to the horses. As far as riding, I do, but I don't. I'm getting to where I'm taking a step back from I ride. There's no doubt about it, but I don't ride 10 a day. I'll kind of pick a couple for me, and I'll just kind of get them really, really good and then market them and then grab a couple more, because I'm kind of on the move all the time. I don't really just get to be in one spot and just focus on horsemanship.
Well, boy, that's a good deal, though, with the stockmanship. That's becoming more important, the good horsemanship and good stockmanship on these ranches and feed yards, I would think.
Yeah, the feed yard, that world, number one, is probably one of the biggest misunderstood worlds in the livestock industry that I know of. there's a lot of opinions on feed yards. I've learned a lot being around it, and actually, I'm really, really glad. I've always dabbled in them a little bit, backgrounding calves, that kind of thing. But getting around Kirk Olson and learning from him, and then getting around, taking cattle all the way to fat, all the way, and understanding how important it is that those animals are taken care of with the utmost respect, and that if they're just abused and mistreated and things aren't handled right, it hurts the business. It hurts the bottom line. And so at Olson Farms, we work really, really hard, and we talk a lot about the stockmanship. It helps with death loss. It helps with performance. And all of that comes from how that cow is inside and how he views you when you work with him. So we chase that pretty hard at Olson Farms. And then, naturally in the horse world, a lot of times what I'm finding, in the horse world, people will really, really chase that relationship with the horse. And I think part of that is they want that relationship because the horse will buck them off, so they don't. And in that, when it comes to cattle, sometimes cattle, the majority of people, it seems like, that I've seen, don't chase they don't try to make a bridle cow, and how he handles, like they would a horse, because there's less at stake, And so we're dabbling in that a little bit at Olson Farms and trying to really take the stockmanship to another level with employees that are receptive to it, and really trying to go there. And I think, I mean, we're seeing a huge difference in just the people, right, wanting to show up to work, because work becomes a lot more fun in the feed yard when you think of it that way. And then we're seeing it in the cattle themselves.
If the cattle are handled right, does it help when one gets sick to utilize the antibiotics or the treatment a little bit better?
Howard, I don't know about that. I don't know the science side so much, right? But what I do know is there's a couple things that animals need to be healthy. And the most important one is water, right? And that's probably the single most important thing. If they get dehydrated, you're done. The second thing would be really good feed, something that they want to eat, If you put something in front of them, they're stressed and they don't want to eat it. I mean, nutrition is the gut. The guts is the driver of all of that health. And humans, cattle, it doesn't make any difference. And so those two are really big. And then if you can couple with those two things, if you can add some stockmanship and get those cattle to where emotionally they will let down, a lot of times that'll help that body heal. And we're finding absolute results in that.
Another thing that I would think is maybe your workman's comp insurance rates go down a little bit because you don't have as many accidents with good stockmanship, do you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt. Let's say that the wrecks aren't as consistent. You're still, tell people all the time. It's like a joke around our place, with some of those people, or even when I'm on the road. I'll ask somebody and say, hey, you come off yet today? And most of the time they say no. And I say, well, if you don't come off at least once a week, you're not trying hard enough. And I mean that as an absolute joke, But the reality of the whole thing is it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You're dealing with livestock, and the variables change every iota of a second, right? Everything's constantly changing. It's a constant flow. And the human being has to learn to be very forward-thinking and seeing these situations take place. And sometimes there's things that happen that a human doesn't have any experience in to head it off before it goes bad, right? And some things are just flat out of your control. We don't know why. Some things we just throw to God and don't try to figure them out necessarily. But yes, absolutely, we've seen a huge decline in workman's comp. At the same time, stuff will happen. It's just the way it's, you get in a car when you're 16 years old, you got your driver's license. At some point in your life, you're going to scratch a fender on that car. It's just kind of the way it goes,
Folks, stay with us. Going to have a lot more good information from Ricky Quinn in just a moment. You're listening to the Horseman's Corner.
Do you need help with anything website related? Hale Multimedia has been in the business of helping others for over 20 years. Please give us a call at 940-386-1806 or ding us at 940-224-6315 or visit halemultimedia.com. Anything website related, we're here to help you. That's halemultimedia.com.
Welcome back to the Horseman's Corner. I'm Howard Hale, host of the program. Let's continue with Ricky Quinn and talk a little bit more about stockmanship. How accepting are the employees of this, maybe a different philosophy of the horsemanship and stockmanship that they'd been used to?
Well, I think my answer to that, Howard, would be I'm working really hard to hire somebody up front that is already open in the beginning. I'm not saying that the way we do things is the way, and I won't say that it is the way, because I'm learning there's a lot of ways to do a lot of stuff, right? And that's just how I feel about it. But I do know one thing too is getting into cowboys, right? There's nobody more prideful than a Marine or a cowboy. And I mean that kind of as a half joke, right? Because once you get to be a cowboy, there should be a lot of pride there. You should believe in yourself. You got to have confidence, to give confidence to the horse, to be able to move a cow that doesn't want to be moved. You got to think something of yourself. But sometimes in that world too, it can be really hard to change. It's no different than anywhere, right? And that change is really, really hard. And I've been able to experience a few people that I've hired or were there before me or just traveling around the U.S. and doing clinics that some people might try it, and say, oh, yeah, I'm open to learning and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And you get around a little bit, and when the new wears off, it comes down to they weren't as interested as you thought. And so I think really the people that I work with are very, very, very open, and they are excelling. They're learning so much and doing so much, and they're just really, really excelling because they're very open. And really, there's kind of a deal where I work that if you're not open to this, we're not interested in you working here, And the other thing that I've got in my favor is the crew that I work with, they really do believe in it. And so when somebody new comes in that's kind of off the mark a little bit, and they can kind of see through these people, and those people really aren't into it, and they're there for other reasons, it's really not even me that discourages that person. It's the rest of the crew, because the rest of the crews work so hard to get the death loss down and to get these cattle handling a certain way or to get these horses away, right? The people that are part of what we call the steerhead part of the place who get a lot of these horses going, and then they've got to go to the feed yard. We want that transition going into the feed yard. We want everybody working in the feed yard the same way that we're working at the arena and out on the ranches, and so that it's a seamless transition for the horses. And so you get some of the people in the feed yard, if you had one. We don't. But if you have one that really isn't open to it, it's really not even me. It's the rest of the crew that kind of puts the pressure on them and says, hey, this is how we do things around here. This is how we'd like you to view it. And so it's a really neat team because we're trying to create a product in these horses, and we want consistency. And so that's really important for me to do my job and hire the people up front that I feel would be really open to help us with our program.
Boy, this is a good opportunity, though, to turn out some really good horses and some horses that you'll find some that are suitable for that lady that wants a horse to ride out on the trail, and then you'll find some that probably aren't, don't you?
Yeah. Selling horses is really hard. The one thing I know about selling horses is if somebody comes to We've got a lot of them. We'll start lining horses up. I don't care if you stay 2 weeks. If you want to sit there and you want to just ride horses and go out on the ranches and go in the feed yard and ride in the arena and come out of the box and rope a steer, and I want to make sure, number one, that this horse fits. Sold a couple horses a couple weeks ago to some fellas, and I was talking to them about the horses, and I went through the horses and what I knew of them. And one of the guys looked at me and said, "All you're saying are negative things about this horse. Do you even want to sell it?" And I looked at him, the guy, and I said, "Well, you can already tell what's good. And what people are worried about is what is hidden underneath that nobody talks about. And if there's anything that ruins a horse deal, it's because if they felt like the horse or the person wasn't honest." And so, in a way, it feels like I'm discouraging the sale, but I'm really not. And we've sold, we've sold a lot of horses this year, over 60 head, I think. And so far, knock on wood, we haven't had any. I'm sure there's questions. I'm sure somebody gets a horse home and goes, "Well, he's not good here or there." You can never get a horse broke enough for somebody. That's a reality, right? There's always something, because that horse is going to somebody else with a different feel, and that's just the way that is. And that's just part of the trade between the buyer and the seller, and understanding that. But we haven't had anybody call back and say, "This horse is absolutely not what you represented it, and we want our money back, or we're taking you to court." Knock on wood, Lazy U program has not had that, and I really, really try hard to communicate with the people. And another thing is, if in my gut I don't think the horse fits, it doesn't matter how much that horse is worth or what we have him priced at, I'm not selling him, because I just know it's not going to be good for the horse. It's not going to be good for the person. And so I work really, really hard to get a read on the person, a read on the horse, and do my best that I possibly can to make sure that fit is going to work, because I want those people going away and only saying good things about it. I don't want negative press, right? And so anyway, I just work really hard in that area.
Do you ride both geldings and mares?
We're going to, yes. We're getting things trimmed down now to slowly, with a number that's going to be a lot easier and a lot more manageable. I would love to. I'd love to get to the point. I know Kirk, the owner, would love to get to this point. We've talked about it. The people that I work with, we've talked about it. We're all in this together, and we'd love to get to where when we, any good program out there has always ridden their mares for a few years to know that is something they want back in their program. And we're right there. It's not that, it hasn't been that way, but we're right there. And we're getting to that point to where those replacements, we're going to ride them for a couple of years, and no, we want to be a legit program, And right now, the quality of horses that the Olsons are raising, breeding and conformation and mindsets, I'll put them up against anybody's that I've experienced. They're nice horses. And now we're just dialing that program in, dialing it in, refining the thing more and more all the time.
Give us some of your philosophy about working with horses and training them, will you, Ricky? Because that's interesting.
My foundation, like Howard, is Tom Dorrance, Ray Hunt, Brannaman, right? I've spent the majority of my time around Brannaman. That is, and he is darn sure Ray Hunt and Tom Dorrance through and through. That's my foundation, is right there. And when I got around Brannaman and saw what he saw and got into it for a few years and started to kind of figure out what I wanted to do early on, I just admired how a Ray Hunt or Buck could take a young horse or a troubled horse, and they could be tying down cattle in a really short amount of time, and that was a huge goal of mine, is to just get around as many messed up horses as I possibly could, to learn as much as I possibly could on the mind of the horse. But then in that way, I have never showed a horse, but at that time for me, the showing was going out and doing a job out in the hills, and then seeing how my horse responded to that job, and that was the show pen for me at that time, and going about that, it's just learning how to fit the horse, and where the horse is coming from. I haven't made any of this stuff up. I don't think really anybody has much of an original thought. Everything I'm learning has already been thought about by somebody else. It's just that we're developing a better feel, right, in how to interact with the horse as time goes on. And so that feel part of it, getting control of the feet, understanding of getting the horse to shift his weight one way or another so that you can get those feet to do what you want them to do. And going about that in a way that the horse understands and you understand, slowing down, figuring out the patterns of the feet, right? So I get questions all the time. Ricky, in your opinion, what does it take to make a bridle horse? I just kind of shrug my shoulders now with where I am in my life, and I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. I don't. Because if you go and you talk to my friend Buck about it, he's pretty sophisticated in what he's looking for to make that horse a bridle horse and the movements that he wants, right? And then if you go talk to somebody who is a trail rider, they may not need to do haunches in on the trail. And if you go back to Brandeman and say, well, what do you think about haunches in on the trail? He'll just kind of say, well, that just means your horse knows more, right? He's more of a sophisticated trail horse. Some people don't really necessarily want to go that far. So just being a good, solid, gentle horse that understands his job. So in a roundabout way, what I'm saying, Howard, is I love my foundation, and I believe every horse needs to understand where his hind feet are and how to work them, where his front feet are and how to work them. They all need to walk, trot, lope on a loose rein. They need to come down through the transitions on that loose rein into the stop. I think they should understand things like ropes and tarps, right, so that they can handle some pressure in the world and just have a really, really good, solid foundation. And that's what we're really trying to create at Lazy U. And then to move on from there, we've got some horses, too, that back to that question of what does it take to make a bridle horse, I think that the deal is you've got to understand what you want to use your horse for. Because the lady who's going to be a trail rider versus, you talk about some high-end reining horse trainer, right? It's different. It is different in what the horse has to know at the end of the day. And so understanding what you want to use your horse for, they all need that foundation, I believe. And then from there, understanding the movement you want that horse to know, and then get him really good at that movement. And when they can handle their job and do the movements you want them to do at whatever level it is, and you're okay, you got yourself a bridle horse. And so what our horses, where we go and what my philosophy in working horses and what we want our horses to know and what I want them to know on the road, it's all about the foundation in the beginning. Getting them really good mentally to where they can understand some pressure. They can think their way through some pressure. Some people may use a term of, kind of teaching them how to be trained, right, or teaching them how to learn. Just kind of working them through those steps, but doing it in such a way that's really fitting to the horse. That's what we're really into. But in such a way the horse understands, and he has time to think his way through it, to develop that foundation, so that if you decide, wherever you decide to take that horse, you can add pressure, he understands, and he does his job without getting anxious and in trouble mentally.
Ricky, it's time for us to take another break. Let's get that done, but you folks stay with us. Going to have a lot more good information from Ricky Quinn in just a moment. You're listening to the Horseman's Corner.
Do you need help with anything website related? Hale Multimedia has been in the business of helping others for over 20 years. Please give us a call at 940-386-1806 or ding us at 940-224-6315. Or visit halemultimedia.com. Anything website related, we're here to help you. That's halemultimedia.com.
Third segment of today's program, and let's hear more from horseman and stockman Ricky Quinn. Ricky, does the whole foundation of what you do with the horse really start with the halter breaking?
Absolutely, right? So you bring those babies in, you wean them off their mom, and absolutely. And the first thing we do is toss a little rope around their neck. You wear a foot, we do it in a lot of different areas, but you can do it in a 12 by 12 stall, and you can still do it in a 60-foot round pen if you want. But just tossing that rope on there, starting to roll the hindquarters in the beginning, it's really all you got, and allowing those horses to learn how to come off of a field, to understand that rope can touch them and it's not the end of the world, and just start that mind kind of coming your direction. Working off of pressure, understanding a release of pressure, starting to get them to hunt that release, and start drawing that mind in the direction you want it to go.
What age do you take them out and start working on the ranch with them?
Well, here they'll get, like they're born in May, and they start getting halter broke sometime in the November time frame. There's a bunch of different bunches, so we'll be done halter breaking hopefully end of December time frame. Takes a couple months. Once we go through that process, they get bumped out. We'll bring them back in as 2-year-olds. I have a crew of guys that come in, a handful of guys come in December. They'll start anywhere from, it just depends on what we're going to do, but right around 40 head of colts in December is 2s, put a handful of rides on them. They get kicked out, right? And we get going. So they get kicked out, so then the 3s from the previous year come in at the same time, and then from then on, they really kind of get camped on as 3-year-olds, and they just kind of get ridden, and we're moving forward with them into the 5- and 6-year-old mark. So as a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old, they're getting used more. We start introducing them to the feed yard, start introducing them to the outside ranching, and then really by the time they're 5 and 6, they're pretty mature, and they're working full time.
Do you have any trouble keeping those horses sound?
Well, I think, we got to keep 50 riders going, right? And then the conditions that we have to ride these horses in, whether it's outside or in that feed yard, anywhere it's going to be tough to keep them sound, but no, we don't. With as many horses as we have, the kind of lamenesses that we have are very, very minor. We don't see a lot of long-term joint trouble or that kind of stuff. If anything, it's little things, and it's short-term. One thing that, we do at our place is all the shoeing is in-house. I've brought a friend of mine in from Oklahoma named Tommy Kilgore. He's been one of the best things for my life as far as knowledge on a horse. He's been really, really a big deal for me in understanding movement and understanding true soundness in a horse. And I brought him in, and I've got 2 people that I work with, 2 younger guys in their mid-20s, and they've taken into the shoeing. So all of that is done in-house. And so having that and being able to trim these horses and balance them the way we want to balance them from an early age now, all the way up into this 5- and 6-year-old range when we start marketing those horses to the public, we have a really good idea what this horse is, what his soundness is, and we understand it at a above normal level, right? And so we give these horses the best shot we possibly can. And if we end up having a horse that's lame, it's usually a chronic thing that was going to happen anyways, most of the time.
Well, that footwork, when you talk about those farriers, I think sometimes people don't understand how important a good one is.
Oh, man. I didn't either. I knew that shoeing was important. I got shoeing by a guy when I was young, about 16, 17, a guy named Nate Brown in Wyoming, just got going. Then when I got into Montana up there, I was around a guy named Randy Bach, and he's the one that really got my foundation in the shoeing and got me to where I could get under a bunch of them and actually learn something. Still, a lot of it was trial and error for me. And then as soon as I knew the importance of soundness in a horse and that foot, but I didn't really grasp it, the way I do today. And I don't know, I just went through a phase a couple years ago, and I was even talking to my wife about it and saying, I know I can shoe and keep one sound, but I just feels to me like there's something more here. And I just got to exploring a little bit, looking around, and and nothing was really getting a hold of me. It just really didn't fit me. And I was riding a horse that I bought from the Lazy U as a yearling, and I was riding him, and he has a foot growing a particular way that's why I got him bought. Nobody wanted him. So, but I thought I'd try him, and his foot was growing in a particular way that I really struggled keeping a shoe on it, and I really struggled with it. Tommy happened to be at one of my clinics. And are you still there, Howard?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. If I lose you, I'll call you back, okay?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, he was at one of my clinics, and I was talking out loud about when I was working this horse, and I said, there's just something here that I'm feeling that I can't get a hold of. And at lunch, Tommy came over to me and was looking at it, and I noticed he was looking, and I was just like, what do you see, man? I didn't even know he was a shoer at the time.
Talk a little bit more about that horse that you couldn't get figured out as far as his foot was concerned.
Gotcha. Yeah, so the way the foot was growing and everything that was there, and I was putting shoes on him, but, I mean, I trod in the length of the arena and ripped the dang thing off. You know, I couldn't keep a shoe on that foot, and then I got to where I could kind of keep it on, but I don't think I was keeping it on because of the balance in the foot and the leg. I was keeping it on because just feeling of him with my horsemanship, and he was figuring it out. And so I rode him like that for a while, and it just got to the point then that it just felt like I was just missing something in the movement of this horse when I'd ride him. Like I just wasn't getting to his full potential. So that's when I was talking about it in one of my clinics, riding around, and I didn't even know I was talking about it. Just needed somebody to talk to, I guess. And I'm glad I talked about it out loud, because at lunchtime, that's when when Tommy Kilgore came over and was looking, and he shared with me that he was a horseshoer. And and I said, well, what do you see? And so he told me just a couple things, right? And they're things that I'd never heard. And so it was lunchtime, and we went to lunch together, and I picked his brain a little more, and I'm really, really glad I did, because our relationship has just taken off from there. And if a person were to look at that horse's foot today and watch him travel, if you were to look at his foot, you'd never know he had the problem. My wife has been really trying to work with me on understanding soundness for a long time. And I was in mindset, oh, hell, just saddle them up and go. They'll be fine. You know, I don't got time for that. But now that I'm starting to dabble a little bit, be a weekend warrior in the cow horse world, right, and work in the arena a little bit and get these horses to stop a certain way and turn a certain way, it's really opened my eyes to what those horses need to be as far as soundness, mentally, nutrition, physically, in all those areas. And Tommy is just a really good piece for that.
North Platte, Nebraska horseman and stockman Ricky Quinn.
Do you need help with anything website related? Hale Multimedia has been in the business of helping others for over 20 years. Please give us a call at 940-224-6315 or visit halemultimedia.com. Anything website related, we're here to help you. That's halemultimedia.com.